for the road. They want out.
And lets it kind of go.
Get away from everything.
Man, y'all need the string.
I couldn't believe it.
Notice y'all need the string for anything?
I was standing there,
And I just said, I'm like, it's not weird. And I said, I don't even look like you're gonna go
You
behind.
know, we've got access to it from the backside because we've got,
Trying to get past that point.
property ring there. We just drive in from the back. We don't have to
You
go to the front anyway.
And I
I don't know nobody buy it. I'll give you 30 foot of access back to the road. There's no road frontage whatsoever. No. And it brought $250,000 for that back place. You know, the back part back there that she didn't get there. They just wanted,
But
they
it's
just
just
wanted to
like-
get away from everything.
No.
You just take some-
That'll get them away from everything.
Yeah, I didn't do that.
I just couldn't.
Well,
I'm
I think
usually
it's-
really good at text
People are,
messaging. Now,
people
when
are
we start
starting, they're
doing our
starting to
group
come.
messages, I get pushed behind. It takes
Hey,
me.
look, it's still showing.
Starting to
So
come.
if it does,
Whether we want it or
for
not.
some
you know.
reason. Don't think what is he
What
talking
is he
about?
talking about?
Okay, I need to ask Derek, do you need a room for the December 3rd through and 4th? Okay,
Attaboy, brave soul.
Well,
You
I'm
need
already
room.
gonna be there. On Friday,
I already
I'm just gonna leave work and go.
what? Unbook it,
unbook it.
unbook it, we'll have
Unbook it,
Teresa,
let you do it.
call Teresa
Because when you
Lewis.
said that the other night, I thought I gotta call him and I didn't.
No,
He
call
said,
Teresa Lewis, and have Teresa too.
So undo it.
Well, you can turn it in and get reimbursed
You'll do that, Douglas?
Yeah, we can do that. We've done that.
Just give you the receipt on it.
But you may not get the discount though.
Started again.
That's
Yeah, they gave me the discount.
Yeah, but there'll be all the taxes on it.
Freddie told me what
And
the
there'll be
reason
some
cost, I
taxes
just
up.
paid it out in the cost. They reserved it on the board.
Whatever you want to
If basketball wasn't starting
Okay.
today.
But it'll be cheaper if I reimbursed it and got Tracy to
It would.
do it. Okay,
A
that's
little
what I'll do.
bit, not, probably not a lot.
The other night when he said, I thought, well, I messed up. So I meant to call you and I
No,
forgot.
no big deal. Okay, so I'll
I'll
have,
fix it.
I wish Jennifer could go. Jennifer's been gone. I
I
wish
wish
she'd
she
been
could
gone.
go too. When is she? Is she going into
I think she must be having to go January. That's one thing.
That would do better for me, but they said it was filled, so.
What is it?
It's I-24.
I wonder if she's already got it. She got it.
Yeah, I'm on it every day, so.
Is it out for that, I believe?
Yeah, I'm on it.
Where you got your room?
Mhm.
Okay. Sometimes it'll fill up.
I think
You're gonna get
February.
Wade's usually the first one here. I wonder if he forgot.
Almost gonna get out of
Yeah, I saw
town.
this
My little
afternoon.
girl is. 6.
Is it 6?
Yes, sir.
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 I'm in school now.
I didn't
Like
take
you
you
sound
on
like-
with me and introduce you to
You sound like
everybody as you
Tracy.
call me sir, though. It's just.
I'm gonna have to come up with a different
Well,
name so you don't
you
get a
sound
big
like
head.
Tracy. No, Jennifer could go. That would be probably better for her.
I think she's gonna be out. I think she's been.
When does she come
that
out?
weekend.
With her,
Yeah, it's the guard that weekend, but the 3rd and 4th, on what, a Thursday and a Friday?
Friday and Saturday.
Is it Friday, Saturday?
Yeah.
Okay.
I
Have you
think she
registered?
goes that weekend.
Have y'all
Yeah, that's right, she
registered?
does.
yeah, I'm registered for the December.
And I've got one invoice and that one wait. I haven't got one on anybody else.
Well, I've got my,
That was that.
I've got my certification, my paper saying I was registered for mine.
This
Yeah, I
one,
did too.
with this one, I don't think they charge for, do they?
I don't know.
With this is their orientation, but then what they have to do too, they've got to go to the orientation. But now Wade signed up for that thing once a month, and he does that once a month, the leadership deal, and that's what that $75 was for that
Okay.
once a month thing. And I was gonna see if anybody else wanted to do that. It's it's a leadership thing that they do once a month, and you go every month, and you go all those months, and you get your years, like what Javen's having to do. Instead of it being one full day, you get it every just what, a couple, I think it's maybe an hour or two.
You're in the middle of the day though?
Yeah,
That's
that's the
a
problem.
cut for me.
That's the problem.
You have to go to so many academies a year. Keep us in good graces, or keep the board within good graces.
You should have seen me that one day when we had the orientation for the actual whatever. I had an earpiece in And
You were walking.
and I'm making it work. And I'll be like, yeah, and I'll be like, yes, did you do that? I was like, this is great. So,
This one, I'm not.
What's that?
Said he was coming.
This one the other night, yeah, that was the other night. I found that too. I don't know, that was in the floor in there in the computer room. I think that was a mess up. So I said, I'm gonna save that for Derek. Oh, that mess up. Okay, it's 6:02, Mr. Chairman, and I will let Mr. Davenport in.
Hey, just text.
And I'm just kind of watching, see if anybody pops in that wants to come in. I did send that to all the commissioners, so. Corey just texted me. I let him in.
I'm here.
All right, we've let you in, Mr. Davenport.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry I can't be there in person. I had knee surgery today.
Oh, you're having
So-
fun.
I'm sitting on my couch with my knee propped up enjoying a BOE meeting.
I can't get any better than that.
No, it's great.
I don't know where Wade's at. Anybody heard from Wade today?
that's weird that he's not here. He said he had anything here.
Hey, have y'all started the meeting yet?
No, we're just down, getting moving along.
Okay, can I ask you at some point tonight to address this for me? Because you know the answer and I don't.
Maybe I do.
Well, one of you does probably. I'm reading where that a way to reduce the cost of busing a lot very quickly. It says here that school-owned buses cost 52% to operate per route of what it costs to contract those same routes. So this gentleman is saying that it costs us $26,000 more a year per contracted bus route than an owned bus route.
That the contract buses are more to operate than the county-owned buses. Is that what you're saying, Corey?
Well, that's not what I'm saying. That's what they're saying. They're saying the contracted bus costs y'all $26,000 more per year per bus than what the owned buses cost you.
Wait, I was just fixing to text you. So, I will let Lisa Black probably can answer that. Douglas can probably help answer that. Douglas is saying
Would be correct, Mr. Davenport. It does cost quite a bit more, but that figure does not include their fuel or their wear and tear. So they would probably beg to differ.
So there's what basically they're saying is if we done away with contracted buses, we could save $26,000 more a year per bus. Does that sound right?
But
That
Lisa, go ahead.
we pay them, but I'm not including their wear and tear and their fuel. So I'd have to do an analysis to check. But yes, there would
Well,
definitely be
he goes on to say that's assuming we provide no fuel or maintenance cost to the contracted buses.
That's correct. We do not provide those services to them.
We are going to put a radio on those buses, though. That will be the county's radio. So if when that contract were to end, they'd have to return that radio to the county.
I looked at that 2 or 3 years ago, and I was real indulgent in delving into it. And to be honest with you, sometimes it's cheaper to have a contracted bus service because of the repairs. When you're putting an engine in a bus all the time, especially with it's the international engine that was so bad.
Oh yeah, that Max Force.
Yes,
I'm
sir.
still mad
That was
about that.
costing us a fortune. And with the contracted buses, it's completely on them. All fuels, all repair, all tires, wear and tear and everything. So there's pluses and minuses in both of it.
But is that a correct statement that he's making, that it costs us $26,000 more per bus per year for contracted versus the ones that we own?
I would need to do a cost analysis to break it down for you, but I'm going to say it's going to be in that neighborhood.
We spent $282,000 on our buses last year, our drivers. And contracted drivers, we spent $228,517. That's how much we paid the drivers. But then, like Lisa said, doesn't include the fuel and the maintenance.
How many buses do we have?
Lisa, how many buses?
We have 18 and they have 5. Let me rephrase that. We have 20 and they have 5.
So what's the advantage of us contracting it out? Just not having to pay the maintenance?
Well, no, currently I don't have enough drivers or buses to carry that. So we would have to have more drivers and some additional buses to make up for that. And what we've been doing, Corey, is in the past is as a route comes available or a contracted driver gives up their route, we take that back.
Gotcha.
And I took one back last year, and that caused some issues with one of the contracted drivers for a while.
So basically, we're phasing out contractor drivers out then.
As we can, yes, sir.
Okay, I got you. But right now, you don't have enough bus drivers to make it work unless you have the contracted drivers.
That's correct, and we don't have enough buses.
Gotcha.
And that's a $90,000 cost that we can't do.
Gotcha. Okay, sorry to take over your meeting. I'll shut up now.
So 20 buses that we operate and 5 contracted buses that we have. What is it, Lisa? 3 of those, right? 3 contractors for 5 buses.
3 contracted drivers equal 5 buses.
What was Douglas's numbers?
Douglas, hang on just a second, Courtney. I'll have him reread those numbers. Thank you. Have a great weekend. In the middle of a lot of bad things, some good things too.
We spent $282,000 roughly on bus drivers last year, and contracted bus drivers we spent $228,517.
So 282 was the total, and out of that 282, 228 went to the contractor drivers or to the drivers, period.
The contracted drivers was 228, what did I say? 228,517.
And then the regular drivers is 282. That's separate. So that's separate, Cordy.
Got you. I'm good now. Thank you.
But those drivers of ours, we're paying maintenance and fuel and wear and tear on the buses.
That's salaries you're talking about, right?
That's
Bill?
just
That's
salary.
just salary,
Got you.
Can you tell us how much we spent on repairs and maintenance on the buses?
I'm fixing to give you all this. Oh,
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to open that big can of worms.
But the point's made, though. The point's made that contracted buses do get more. But Lisa can do a cost analysis and see what it balances out or not. Some school systems around us, they just pay one price and they've got contracted buses for all. Warren County uses Durham, and they just pay one price, and that's the price they pay. For every,
Like Jabin was saying a while ago, if we have a bus that
fuel.
hold up. Say that again,
We
Douglas.
spent $49,000 on fuel, $138,000 on repairs, $20,000 on insurance, $17,000 on miscellaneous, and of course $89,200 for a new bus.
What was the $49,000 for? Fuel.
Fuel.
What was 138,000 for?
Repairs.
Got it. All right. I got everything else.
Yeah. The 20,000 was for insurance.
Got you.
Was it 28, Douglas, or 20?
20.
20.
20.
99.2.
And 89.2 for a new bus.
He put 17 in there.
And then we got 10,000.
Both ways.
And remember, we got 10,000 for a seatbelt grant that would put that bus being right under $100,000, correct? Douglas?
Well, the bus costs 89.2. 10,000 of that's gonna be paid with the seatbelt grant.
By the seatbelt grant. Gotcha.
5 new buses alone without any maintenance or fuel would be $450,000. And that's what you'd have to spend right off the bat.
Got you.
Contracted drivers.
And then you have to add your drivers, whatever your drivers would cost. An
Mhm.
additional fuel.
And then the insurance.
Repairs.
So time you do all that, it might be just as cheap to contract it out. But then again, you know, I've talked with Grant about that, Director Moore, and there are pros and there are cons when you've got a contracted service, just like on janitorial. Some school systems use an outside deal for janitorial, for, you know, custodial stuff. And there's pros and there's cons both ways on that.
Do you remember what any cons were of having fully contracted?
No, I'd have to get him to tell me what it would be. And then you'd have to do a cost analysis too, like on the janitorial stuff, you'd have to do a cost analysis on how much you're doing then. But there's pros and there's cons on any of it. Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead.
I'm good.
You wanted these meetings?
Okay, here's the deal, Mr. Chairman. You do have a quorum, and you do, Ms. Jennifer is still on a training mission at Fort Dix, New Jersey. So we wish her well there to finish up her training. She said she's in class from basically 8 to 8. With the only time she gets to get us the phone is during her break. So she sends her best to each of you. And sorry that she can't be here. Ladies and gentlemen, let me show you something. I'm going to use a visual as part of my teaching method tonight. Anybody want to take a guess what this file is?
Budget.
Budget from last year. Budget from start to finish last year in one file, which the end result is this red sheet right here is the end result of, we started the process last year fairly early. You know, it was in probably late January, February when we did that. We did 1 or 2, and then the board says, okay, we won't know certain things until later. So then we wait for those certain things we get from the state, particularly salaries and insurance and what the state's going to pay. And I don't want to steal Douglas's thunder, but then that's when, you know, our goal, you know, the commissioner's goal is for us to have a budget by May 15th. Is that correct, Mr. Mahaffey? May 15th.
That's correct, yes.
Corey, May 15th, that's right, isn't it, from the commission?
That's the law, yes.
Okay, so it's going to go to that. We have to have something over there to them. But a lot of times we do not get the final BEP until July. And we don't get probably teacher salaries until sometime June-ish. Am I right, Douglas, on that? So I've been through this process twice, and it's not an easy process. None of it is. Went through it in 18, and well, I guess my third one was this time, 18, and then 19, and 20. And none of them get any easier at all. And then we had the 81 Act, and the 81 Act then, and y'all got a little bit of wind about what happened during the 81 Act, that everything now that has to do with physical matters in our school system is now done upstairs, right above, when you come in the office out here, the county finance office is above. And I'm not going to steal any thunder from the county finance office. So what I've done is ask them to attend tonight and to give you what I call budgeting 101. All you need to know about budgeting, because the process starts, like I say, we started in January, February, and we ended up, and we did get a budget over to the budget committee by May 15. And then we made some adjustments. And then the budget was done, final budget was done, what, Corey, you're on the budget committee, when was that? When was that
Our,
final
the
budget?
whole county or your budget?
Our budget, we got that over fairly early after the May 15th. We did just,
Yeah, we actually got it before July 1 because we could have actually voted, for our budget July 1, but I think we postponed it to like the July 10th meeting, that we had somewhere around that time period. So we probably got y'all's budget, I don't know, shortly 1st of June, middle of June, somewhere like that. It was very early this year.
yeah, we did some special budget meetings in mid-June and got that budget as soon as the budget was approved by the board. We got that directly to, over there to y'all. And then in the same process, the finance office was created that had to start by August 1. And Diane, y'all really got started on July 1, correct, with the budget. And then with the new budget, and then we finalized everything. The Financial Management Committee finalized everything by August 1. And then we continued to, wait on local government. And Douglas then moved, and Darlene then moved in October.
Yeah. Just because you turn in a particular budget does not mean that the commission will approve that particular budget. You can turn in 90 cents on the tax rate instead of 68.5, but I mean, you gotta turn in something that they're gonna pass, or you're just wasting both of your time.
A very good point, and I think you and I talked about that earlier this year. I think your budget's 68.5 cents, and one of the things that you and I talked about was to not send us a budget wanting 80 cents because it would never pass the commission. So it would be just a waste of your time to sit there and try to come up with an 80-cent budget when pretty much it's never going to pass the commission.
All right, did we not try 75?
We sent an 85, just for trial balloon.
Yeah.
As a
Yeah,
trial
I know. I remember.
like a lead balloon, just to make a point, and then
We
we
tried 75.
And then we tried 75. We did send out a more realistic trial balloon at 75, and we didn't get any traction over there on 75, did we?
I think your final budget this year was like 71. Does that sound about right?
68.5 is what we
Well,
got.
I know, but I mean, the one you finally sent to us was 70 or 71. I can't remember. That's what you asked for. You wound up getting the 68.5.
Yeah, we got 68.5, but that's what we've got in our, my budget figures is all was 68.5. We didn't really get the 71.5 at all. It's a 68.5, but we did try the 85, and then everybody moved down to 80. That was last year in 18-19.
That's correct.
And it ended up with 68.5, and we've actually ended up with 68.5, 18-19, and then here 19-20 and 2021, it's all stayed the same. But however, the penny brought in more each one of those years.
We did a kind of like a cost analysis. I think Douglas was in on it too. I'm not exactly sure what it came up to be, but I think to run everything correctly, we were gonna need like $1.25.
What's that?
What we guesstimate perfect budget to be to run everything perfectly. There's like
That was
$1.20.
one we estimated.
It was pie in the sky.
$1.20, $1.25. I mean, that's how much of an increase you'd have to keep it.
To keep everything floating.
And I'd roll over if that happened.
But it was that was, I said, okay, let's see if we can just zero this thing out, Douglas. And then they said, if you want it, okay. And so he calculated, put it in the line. And it wasn't $1.25. I don't know what it was. It was the pie in the sky budget is what I call it. But so Mr. Chairman, if I will, I'd like to turn everything over to Ms. Hickman, the finance director for the county, and turn her loose, and then go from there. So
you didn't tell me what you wanted me to do tonight. So
just pie in the sky.
what exactly is?
No. What? Okay. You want to do a series of questions and answers? Is that okay? All right, Diane. Douglas has been our employee for 11 years. Darlene been our employee for nearly 25. I was going to say 25. I'm not saying she's old, but 25 years. I've been here 38, I've been 38 years, but, or 34 years, excuse me. But in your office, what's the difference now to this board? What's the difference between now and how it was when we did all the financing? We contribute about $104,000. Now, if you add the other four that this board said to do, so about $108,000 that we contribute for physical services. That's our contribution for physical services. So how is that changed? Is the question that I'm going to pose to that you would tell this board, how is this changed? What do we get for $108,000? That's my question.
Well, the service, I mean, they're still doing the same job they were doing here. They're just now working for the county instead of working for the Board of Education.
So what does Douglas do? What does Diane do now at their new location?
Well, Darlene still does the federal projects, and Douglas does the all the accounts payable for the general purpose school fund. As far as their actual jobs, they didn't change, did they, Douglas? You're not doing anything different. So.
Not that part of it, no.
Yeah.
And of course, you got Regina's doing the payroll, where
Yeah.
Shannon used to do the payroll. Regina's
Right.
doing payroll.
She's doing the payroll for everybody now, so highway, county, and board.
So she's doing a payroll every week because
Every
they get
single
paid
week.
weekly and county gets paid every 2 weeks and our folks get paid every week. So,
Yeah. She stays pretty busy.
okay. So Neil, what is your role out there as the one who's helps us do a lot of things lately?
It's supposed to be accounts payable for county general, but it also winds up, it's also highway and whatever else has to be dealt with. Random number of county ambulance service,
And
sheriff's department, all that runs through my desk.
And so Neil, would you tell the board what you've been doing for them in the last month and a half, I guess?
I've been speaking with various lenders to find out what money costs to borrow. I've been looking at what schools cost to operate, what the EP ratio says is appropriate or whatever funded for staffing, and trying to calculate, given our student population, what money we really have to work with, county money versus state money. So try and put together a scenario under different consolidation plans.
Now, has that been a difficult task? Or not as difficult as you thought, or more difficult than you thought?
There's the paper part of it, which I don't think is difficult because you can always run numbers. Then there's the reality of everyone's personal needs and personal histories and personal experience, and making the numbers fit in the reality of what the public, is going to live with. I guess is, the part that I don't have to deal with at this point. That's more you guys. But running numbers that, if we were, just starting from scratch, running numbers is, the numbers look positive, I would say.
On what?
If we were starting from scratch, the numbers look fine to me. We have a certain number of students. It takes this number of teachers, takes this number of square feet to run it all. I think there was enough money to do it.
Under what scenario? Are you talking about the buildings that we currently have? Or
That's what I'm saying. If we were starting from scratch, which under a certain consolidation plan, we're almost starting from scratch. We're just restructuring and putting the right buildings in the right spot with the right number of students and teachers in it. I'm optimistic. I'm not necessarily an optimistic person, but I'm optimistic about the numbers in this case.
So are you saying that a consolidation plan is more
economical? Let's put it
It's
that way.
more economical, yes. We can do what we have to do with the dollars we have.
and we can make it run very well, consolidated.
Yes. From a number side, the day-to-day, that's not my, I don't have the experience to actually say that I can run a school. But if the goal is to improve outcomes for students, I would like to believe that a consolidated school system will help get those outcomes we need.
Are you at the point, with a short amount of time you've had to look at it, are you at the point to say we cannot continue down the road we're going on the present structure?
I would want to defer to Douglas because he's been doing the day-to-day of this stuff for more than a decade, but I don't understand. I don't know how we can keep paying the bills. I think we will run into a cash flow problem. Maybe this summer, maybe starting in September. Yes, we will have a cash flow problem.
We're already in a cash flow.
Be polite.
You can be brutally honest.
But you could say without hesitation that running the way that we're running now, that our school system would be bankrupt within a year.
I think I can say that comfortably, yes. And if the goal is better outcomes for students' educations, what we're doing isn't working. Not saying anyone's a bad teacher. I'm just saying the numbers, we're not there.
May I ask a question?
Chairman,
I went on here and I'm learning Zoom, so I went in here and raised my hand like I was in class. I don't know if you can see it.
I probably didn't even see you. Yeah,
Okay.
I see your hand going down.
I know what the teachers are up to.
Do we, I keep hearing consolidation would solve our problems. Can you briefly explain that or tell me if that's true or, what's the thoughts behind not consolidation, I apologize, rezoning. Rezoning would solve all our problems. I don't believe that to be true, but if that's true, I would like to be corrected on that.
I'd rather defer to the school director.
Rezoning, and I'll answer that partially, Corey, that rezoning with the existing buildings and the existing personnel that we have currently would not solve our problems. As a director, I can emphatically say that would not solve our problems. To keep the amount, still keep the amount of buildings that we have and keep the same amount of personnel that we have, we still get the same result, correct, Douglas?
I didn't hear Douglas, what'd he say?
Douglas said that's what he would think, dealing with those same numbers. If you continue to do the same numbers and any kind of rezoning, and we're looking at that a little bit. This board's looking at many aspects, but rezoning just probably does not help as much.
Well, it's not going to give you any more additional money to rezone from the BEP because your overall student enrollment number is still going to be exactly the same.
That's correct. We're paid on ADMs. And our next ADMs don't look good, but looking at what I'm looking at now, they don't. We're down. I mean, we've lost students and to COVID. Now this is an unusual year, by the way. I've never seen a year like this in my 35 years in education. So
I got a question for you, Neil. We've been looking at this and studying it pretty hard. How much square foot do we have currently under roof in our school system?
I looked at that today. I don't have that top of my head, but 90 and 114, so something like that.
So how many square feet do we
In rough numbers, let's call it 300,000 square feet, and don't quote me because I actually have the exact numbers upstairs. The BEP funds us for 214,000 square feet.
And if we had the 214 square feet on the roof, it should pretty much be a streamlined butterfly.
Sure.
Let me make sure I heard that right. 214,000. We have a little over 300 total square feet of school buildings within the 7 school systems. Is that correct?
Yes, and I'd want to give you a very accurate number tomorrow. I don't have it with me, but yes.
But the BEP only funds us for 214,000 square foot.
Right, like it pays for certain numbers of teachers to students, it also, you know, gives support dollars for a certain number of square feet per student.
Gotcha.
Our student numbers affect that.
So that other 86,000 square foot is funded by the taxpayers.
Yes, sir. 338,000 is total square feet,
Wow.
or 338.
So it's even more.
That's the questions you gotta ask. I'm sorry, guys, but you gotta pinpoint it, yeah.
There he is. Freddie, there he is.
Okay, thank you, sorry. Okay, we welcome Commissioner Russell Reed also with us tonight.
That's 124,000 extra square feet. that Taxpayers are paying.
100%. Taxpayers paying for that 100%.
The 124,000 square feet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just to put that in perspective, the high school is 103,000 square feet by itself. So we're talking about, we're oversized by BEP standards by more than something the size of the high school.
All right, this question gets raised a lot with me too, is if we rezone and put what they say around 275 students in each school, we would get more BEP funding for principals. I do not believe that to be an accurate statement.
Mr. Curtis, don't you have a session on the BEP coming up?
We do. I've
Y'all
asked,
can learn all about that.
right, yeah.
I think Mary Ann Durst is gonna help you with that.
I have asked Mary Ann Dursky to be at the 11:30 on the November 30th session, and Mary Ann, not heard back from her. I offered her either the November 30th or the December 14th. So either way, we'll get Ben and Mary Ann together. I hope to also invite Miss Lillian Hartgrove, who is the State Board of Education representative from the Upper Cumberland. She represents you on the State Board of Education. So I thought having her talk to you guys and her role at the state board, because she's a member of the governor's BEP task force that Mary.
What was those two names, Freddie?
The one, Ben Torres, of course, y'all know, Ben Torres. Mary Ann Dursky is over all local government finance at the State Department of Education. She's the financial guru. Douglas will tell you, she knows it in and out and is the author of much of it. And then the other person is Lillian Hartgrove, and she is she's actually the chairman of the Tennessee School Board, the state school board. There is a State Board of Education that also is very much like this Board of Education, that does all things education in the state of Tennessee. So you got your Department of Education, like what I do at the State Department. You also got a Board of Education that regulates state policy. And so Ms. Lillian is the chairman, but she's also the representative from this congressional district. So she has a very wide area. Think about John Rose's district. This is the district she represents.
6 counties, ain't it?
It's a bunch, 16, yeah.
16, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank y'all for watching.
So Mary Ann Dursky, Lillian Hargrove, and Ben Torre.
Right, we're gonna have those. I'm gonna try to divide those between those two meetings, and have them here next to talk about BEP. So we'll have a BEP session just on the BEP. We probably need to have
Excellent.
both sessions.
Do you mind if I promote that?
I'll zoom it just like I did this one.
Do y'all care if I promote that pretty hard?
This is an open meeting for all.
Okay.
See, y'all would love me on that open meetings law. Sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Look, we've got, 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 people. And then we've got, Mr. Mahaffey, so we've got 10 besides the people directly involved in it showing up.
Yes, sir. Okay, so are y'all ready for the Douglas premiere then?
Everybody is, school employee or commissioner one.
That's correct. That probably tells you a lot right there.
Tells me everything I need to know.
Okay, the Douglas primer on the budget. I've been looking forward to this all day. Douglas.
Don't get excited. This is 53 pages and we're not going over 53 pages tonight. This is mostly for you to take home.
We've been used to 10 o'clock meetings. Just a joke, just a joke.
I got it.
We used to do those jokes pre-COVID, didn't we?
Yeah, just have the whole thing for coming tonight.
Oh,
Okay, you can see on the front of the handout what I've got for you in there. And most of that is things that you need to take home and just study for yourself. I've got a few comments. You know, our budget's a very volatile budget. There's so many unplanned things when you've got 2,000 students and I don't know how many teachers and employees. Anything can happen. And so in May, when the commission wants a budget, the two big things that we need to know, we don't know. And that's teacher salaries and BEP numbers. There's also grants that have not been awarded at that time. We know we're going to get them, but we don't know how much, like pre-K, coordinated school health, lottery for education, safe schools. You passed, or the board passed, the budget earlier in the year, but then we found out later we're getting $830 more from the safe schools budget. And part of it had to be spent on a different part of the budget. So we had an amendment. The commission passed it. It's 830 more plus moving part of it to a different place in the budget. And also our first BEP numbers last year, we were really enthused because it was much greater because the governor was going to make the starting teacher pay at $38,000, which was about $2,000 more than what we start. So that meant every teacher was going to get a raise. That was a bump in every step of every scale that we have. So we were planning that. And then COVID hit and it hit our budget and the BEP went back down. So that meant we stuck with our same pay scale. And I've got the pay scale in there, each step in a summary. And you can see there's an analysis in there how we meet the state minimums because it's a minimum for each step. And you can see that it's at the first thing after you. There you go. That's base pay, that's our base pay, and that's how much we're over or under the state minimum, which is $36,000 starting teacher pay, and that's what the state requires. And you can look at each step, sometimes we just barely make it. And I've got that for each degree and year of experience.
And let me say too, a lot of other more affluent school districts, they start out much higher than what we do. And so I've got to compete with, Rutherford County that may start out at 38 or 39. We've got to compete against those who are locally, they're doing more in regard to the salary than the BEP is.
And even if BEP doesn't change, we've still got to meet these steps with our teachers. They have to go, if they're a BS in 5 and they go to BS in 6, we have to increase their salary. And the net effect of that is about $200,000 each year.
Say that again.
Say that again, Douglas.
If the BEP doesn't change, the step increases we're required to do usually nets about a $200,000 increase in teacher salaries per year.
And that's required by law, correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
The state has minimums that we have to meet. And also, when a teacher retires, they get $100 for each year they taught. Well, we had one that taught over 60 years a few years ago, and y'all probably know who that is. They got $100 for each year they taught. That's $6,000 that they got when they retired. We didn't know they were going to retire at the beginning of the year. The local taxes don't change a big amount. Sales tax has been increasing some. And I've got you a copy of the maintenance of effort worksheet in the packet that shows how much we're required to be funded by our county body and where we meet it. When we come up with a number that we plug in for property tax, that is a formula that's computed by the tax assessor's office, and we use that number. We don't have anything else to go on except what they tell us. So most years we do collect more more property tax than what we're expecting, and that's good. A danger in increasing the sales tax on your budget significantly is that can change if we had a big economic downturn. That could change, and then we wouldn't meet MOE, and that could be a problem. Talking about the ADMs and BEP funding, I'd venture to say there's not a school system in the state that's not been affected by COVID negatively by their numbers. So I'm thinking and hoping that the state will not penalize for reduced student count, because everybody's affected with this. And we've got additional expenditures that are COVID related. Last year, we had an increase. I can't remember how many it was, but we got some growth funds that we didn't expect to get. And that was about $100,000, give or take a little bit. And that helped with our bottom line.
We went from 1877 previous year to 1917 last year.
Then there's another area that's medical insurance. Most years, the state will have an increase in the medical insurance. Sometimes it's like 3%, but it could be as much as 10%. And we have qualifying events that happen to our employees all the time. We have a marriage or a death or a divorce or childbirth or whatever. Those are qualifying events, and the employee's insurance may change. For instance, one year, DeKalb Telephone required all of their employees whose spouses had insurance offered to them to take that insurance, and the DeKalb wouldn't pay the insurance anymore. So any of our teachers' spouse who worked for DeKalb Insurance, those teachers had to go on our insurance. That happened in the middle of the year. So that increased our insurance that year. There's no control over that. Those are called qualifying events. And also our liability and property and workman's comp insurance goes up every year, because the workman's comp is based on our payroll. Of course, with increases in pay every year for teachers, that's going to go up. Buying a new bus every year, even if we get rid of an old bus, that new bus is worth much more than the old bus. So they're going to charge more for that. At the end of each year, well, be back in about April or May, we have to send in an estimate on our payroll. And that's at the time when we don't know what the teacher salaries are going to be. So sometimes it's a wild guess at what we have to send in to them. And then at the end of the year, they come and audit our payrolls. And sometimes we owe them money. This year, they owed us about $3,000. So that was good. The retirement rate for teachers is set by the state, so there's no control over that. But the non-certified retirement rate is 1.94% now. It has been as much as 8.55%. And it's based on, of course, the county commission determines that rate, but it's based on the actuary, which has to do with the actual amount that our county employees who are retired are receiving versus what's being funded. So I'm looking for that number to go up some. I don't know how much, because it's been 1.94 for a year or two. Don't you think so, Diane? I'm thinking it will. And of course, the state retirement rate for teachers is 10.27%. That can change. This year, I think it went up like 0.2%, which wasn't much, but sometimes it goes up. It has gone down, not much.
So what does that do, Douglas? Does that require you to pay 10.27%
Yes,
out of your budget?
yes, teacher retirement. Special ed, there's two categories in the budget that are special education. It's 71200 and 72220. Those are a maintenance of effort. Those have a maintenance of effort. When you add those together, if we increase that 1 year, then you're stuck with that much the next year. So you have to really watch those lines.
If you give special ed a penny more this year, you have to give it to them next year. You can't take away from it.
That's right. You can't go back. So that's something you need to watch. And also vocational teachers, 71300, they get a different funding in their supplies than the other teachers. Because if you gave the carpenter teacher $200, he couldn't buy too much lumber to teach his class how to build anything, or couldn't buy many pieces of equipment. And we have nursing in our vocational teachers, agriculture, consumer sciences. So each teacher gets an amount of money to spend, and I don't have what each one of them gets with me. I could give you that, but each one of them gets more than what a regular teacher would get. Other teachers, by state law, get $200 a piece to spend. I used to, half of that had to be pooled at the school level and spent, and then they had got 100. But in the last year, the teacher gets all of the $200. And I can tell you that you ask about any teacher, they'll tell you they spend a lot more than that $200 of their money. So,
Absolutely.
yeah. Now pre-K does not get that 73400 because they get a good bit of money for supplies. That pre-K teachers can get just about anything they want because the grant funds it. Utilities at 72610. It's in that category, 415 to 454. The mild weather we've had has helped, but we have to be prepared. The town of Woodbury has increased water rates due to a state mandate that they do that. And it's increased our water bills in recent years. And also, depending on the rain we receive, the football field at the high school has to get watered. And some months the bill for that watering is over $1,000 just for the football field.
And I have talked to the mayor on that about, because whatever you pay in water, they charge you double for sewage. Well, that water is not being utilized at all for any kind of sewer at all from that deal. I've talked to Coach Daniel also about perhaps getting a well, sinking a well on there so you can water it because it goes right back into the ground. And it would be probably more cost efficient to have a well there, but depends on if it's a dry year, that bill can be high. Very high.
In transportation, of course, a big factor in that can be fuel. I know when I came to work here in 2009, of course, that was right at the tail end of the Great Recession. Gas, or diesel too, was $4 a gallon plus. And so that was really hurting the contracted bus drivers. I mean, they contracted for an amount and fuel went up to nearly double it then. And so the board then came up with a formula to give them a fuel allowance, a fuel reimbursement. And it had to do with the fuel index and the amount of miles on their route. And we gave them a check each month for fuel. But of course, fuel came down in the next 3 or 4 years after that. And so that was no longer a factor. But I bet if it happens again, those contracted drivers are going to be wanting some help with their fuel. That's something that's hard to plan for. This year, in this current year, which you don't have a copy of that budget with you, but the board did not fund textbooks. That's 7100449. And the reason they didn't is because they were just trying to cut expenses. But textbooks are something we have to have. And already this year, we have been billed for a software program that keeps up with our textbooks. And that has to come out of that account, so the budget's been amended to take care of that. Also, each year, we usually buy a new bus, keeps our fleet current. We don't have to buy multiple buses in one year. Well, this year one wasn't budgeted. However, y'all did take some action a few weeks ago to pull some money out of fund balance and to get some money that the county commission was getting for, I guess it's COVID relief. And we're buying a bus this year. But next year, it's going to be hard to put $90,000+ back in your budget when you've taken it out. Also, we cut capital outlay this year. Capital outlay is 76100 in your budget. Last year and the last several years, it's been at least $350,000 a year. This year, it's only $150,000. It looks like it's more than that, but whatever's left over the $150,000, 100% of that is earmarked to go toward the roofing project that's currently going on. So don't look at that and think you've got all that money to spend. You've only got 150, and we've already spent some of that. Spent $7,000 today for a water heater at the high school. So those are things you just don't look, you can't plan for. Now, we had COVID hit us last year, and overall, of course, it's a negative thing, but it helped the budget positively because we weren't in school, so therefore we weren't buying bus fuel, and we weren't buying toilet paper and soap and hand towels and all that kind of thing. So that saved us some money there, although we did spend a little bit more in cleaning supplies. And this is something you might want to think about too. We may have to have some more money split there for sanitizing supplies. That's something you have to think about. In your grant programs that we talked about earlier, there's quite a process that's followed with those. Let's just take the safety grant, for instance. That's done by Bonnie Patterson. And she learns early in the year how much she's awarded. And then she has to come up with a plan how she's going to spend that money. And she has to upload her plan into ePlan, the state funding and accounting tool. It has to be uploaded in that. She has to put documents that she uploads in that. And then the state supervisor may call and tell her, well, you can't do this, but you need to do that. And that's gone through several revisions, and they finally approve it. And that has to be done with each grant. And you take a big grant like pre-K that's over $400,000, there's a lot of time and effort got to be spent in planning how you're going to spend that money. Sometimes the board will have a plan that they're going to execute with their capital outlay. I remember a few years ago, they put new windows in all the older schools, but that was planned and budgeted. We didn't have to make a big change because the board had been planning for that. So that was in our budget from the beginning. Overall, the board usually has a fair cash balance with the trustee. But is it right that the trustee earns money on that, earns interest on that money, and the board sees none of it? Another thing, the trustee, and I'm not picking on the trustee, but they're the banker by state law for the board. We paid the trustee $68,526 last year to be our banker. How much could we save if that were not the law? So after you go through all this process and you pass a budget, the county commission passes the budget, and we upload it into ePlan and send it to the state, then it has to meet some tests with them, has to pass the maintenance of effort test, has to pass the fund balance test, and then they approve it or send it back. I remember one year, and Diane may remember this, it didn't pass the MOE test. And so the county mayor had to draft a letter to the Commissioner of Education that it was a letter of intent that the commission would meet and increase their funding to meet maintenance of effort. And that's how we got our funding released for that month. Otherwise, they were going to hold it.
Quick question here, Danny, for you. The budget amount, I want these guys to kind of look at it, is on one side and the amended budget is on the other. That's a change that either happens to the plus or the minus. Explain that a little bit there. I want y'all to look at them and see how close most of them are. Douglas does a really good job. But there's always expenses that come along that you didn't plan for or don't know about. But
we can't in any account in the red each year. We have to move money around to get it where we're not in the red in any account. And sometimes it's a few cents, and the state doesn't really worry about that too much. But early in the year, you all give us permission to move money within each category, like within 73400, that's pre-K. We can move money from supplies to food supplies or maintenance or anything like that. We can do that to make the budget come out right. But now any salary line item that goes over budget or needs to be amended, that has to be approved by the board and the county commission. And that's why at the end of the year, you see so many amendments, because we're over here and we're under there, and we just need to move it around to get it to where we come out right.
And if you move it from one category over to another category, that's when it has to go before the
Right.
commission.
That's another instance what it has to.
That happens
A
all the
good
time.
goal for the board would be to operate each school year with the revenues that you have or less. Now that happened at one time, believe it or not. And back in those days, then they could save their fund balance for big projects. And I think starting with probably Nell Smith and Barbara Parker, Marcia Melton, whoever the directors were, they saw the need for the new Woodbury Grammar School. So they started putting money in fund balance and designating it for the new building. So when that project came up, the county didn't have to borrow all the money. The board had a few million to put into it. So that anything like that you can do will help. But we're not in that position now. In the 1990s, two things happened. The BEP formula was created for school funding, and there was a lawsuit that was won where small school systems were funded the same way the larger ones were funded. When that happened, the school system had more money than they'd ever had. The teachers got significant raises, and there were funds to do things that had never been done before. There was more revenue than expenditures each year, and fund balance increased. In the years since then, though, it's kind of gone the other way because the funding has not increased with the increases in salary and other line items that we are mandated to have to keep up with. So it's no longer adequate to fund our school system the way it is now. And Neil has already said that. So that's kind of my sermon. I think this is more stuff you need to take home and digest. I've got last year's budget on there, and I've got some notes out to the side of it. Some they might help you with what's spent out of those line items.
Put you on the spot, Douglas. I've been doing this 11 years. I asked you this last year in your office. Where's Canyon County wasting, where's the Board of Education wasted its money at?
Yeah.
In your opinion?
I don't see waste. I mean, there may be some. I can't get into what is required and what's not. I don't know about that, as far as what the board has to do, as far as how many teachers they have to have. That's not something I deal with. So I can't think of anywhere that they've cut and cut and cut. And this year, you cut out the textbooks, and I'm telling you, that's kind of buy now or buy later, but you're going to have to do it. Next year, I'm saying you're going to have to put some in there. This year, this previous year, we spent nearly $500,000 in textbooks, and that was a big adoption. I think
ELA is the biggest adoption.
Yeah.
Hey, can I ask a question? Freddie, I thought when we discussed textbooks prior to this year's, we had money left over for COVID. Didn't we spend $200,000 on textbooks?
Yes, we added to that and utilized those funds for textbooks. Yes, the answer to that is absolutely. That's how much textbooks had gone up. And we got those, and we got the textbooks in. Marcia could tell you the whole story about that, but we did buy textbooks though this year. Yes, absolutely. We bought nearly $500,000 on textbooks.
I'll look right here and tell you what.
So but yes, sir, it was a big adoption. And English language reading, because English language arts is not just your English books, it's reading books, it's whole reading series, all of that is involved in that. Dr. Melton can tell you a whole lot about that.
For some reason, it stuck out, it sticks in my mind, and it was around $238,000.
We spent $559,209 on textbooks last year.
And so what we did, Corey, is roll that from that previous year over, and that's why we could spend the 500 and some odd thousand that it cost.
Okay, so of
That's-
the 559,000 spent, 200 and something of it
Yeah, and
was rolled
200
over into
was
that.
rolled over from the previous year that we had left over. Now, one of the things that we've got, though, we don't have any rollover this year at all. And the
Right.
problem is, if I have to buy more, we have to buy more books, we'll have to do a budget amendment or software or whatever that comes that was with this. We didn't allot any funding at all in that scenario for textbooks. So what you're gonna have to do this next year, the board will have to, is to make sure that we've got enough to get us by. Math is gonna be put off another year. So I don't know if that's, so I don't know if that's a big one too, that math is. So that's another thing that we're rolling, that will roll along. But math has been postponed, I think, until 22, 20, 23, or maybe even 23, 24. They're looking at the standards now, and then they thought because this was the ELA was so expensive and so big, they didn't want math to come along and be another big one. So the state is allotting us some additional year, maybe even 2 years out. They've rolled it out into the future.
I've got well over $200,000 on textbooks, on POs for textbooks that have already been spent. They just haven't billed us for them. And I called them today. I said, we've got $200,000 that I know you're going to be wanting. Why hadn't you billed us for it? I don't usually beg people to send me a bill. That's bought out of last year's money. It needs to go ahead and be paid.
So hopefully they'll let you know that fairly quick if they want their money, right?
Never did hear back from them.
So is that one of the big name publishers? Or several?
Amplify Education.
Amplify, okay. So Marcia can help us out on that. Getting in contact with their sales folks to say, hey, if you want your money, here it is. Mr. Chairman, you were asking something about this line here, or this page here, I think is that you were saying in regard to budget amount, budget amendment? That's a good chart.
It is.
Budget amount, budget amendments, the amount that was budgeted, are we, how close did we get to that amount? You can see that month to month expenditures, and then unencumbered balance. Douglas, tell them about unencumbered balance there when they see that.
That's what's left over.
Notice your line item up there, which one's your most expensive by far.
Look at your budget amount for teachers.
That's not all teachers.
No,
That's the bulk of them. 711000116.
especially if they're different line item,
Pre-K.
CTE, and other different line items.
Yeah, pre-K is pretty well their own contained budget. It's pre-K.
Pre-K is, coordinated school health is. LEAPS is not.
It's a bear.
Ronnie, you see anything that stands out at you over there?
Just going through, looking at numbers.
I know that.
But your data is as of June 20th, is that correct, Douglas?
Sir.
Your data is as of June 20th?
This was June 20th, correct?
Right,
Okay.
that's the end of the year.
Yes, sir.
Then I did some per school expenditures. You can see those, and you can see the cost center for the school, like the AUB is Auburn. That's not all expenditures for that school. Those are the items that the state requires us to keep up with by school. So I thought you might find that interesting.
Was our architects higher last year because of all the roof?
Correct, yes.
It was budgeted 20 and we spent 119.
Right.
And that was part of the funding that we got to do that. That was the 77%.
Look right here. See, we still didn't go over, because we moved some from building improvements up to architects.
I just seen them two numbers right here. I figured that was going to be moved.
Does everybody see how the schools are divided? So many of y'all are interested in that. You see how the schools are divided up, the different things there. Each school has a division. And how he did was take those same lines, like 71, 100. He took that and 71, 200 special ed, and divided it out by school and what schools went to what, and then he gives you a grand total on that. Like Auburn, $854,163.42. Now, what we get from the state, from Mary Ann Dursky, what would be a good question to ask her when she's on with us, is that we have the cost expenditures on our side, and then the state sends some, but what the state does is take everything in the county, correct, Douglas? And then subdivides that with every school. That's why we get the difference between our figures and the state, and what Mary Ann Dursky has got. Did I explain that close?
What we do is based on actual expenditures. And plus there's expenditures in there that aren't counted, such as maintenance, some of the contracted services, just some of them, like heat and air repair, of course, that's maintenance. And your cleaning supplies, the restroom supplies, none of that's kept up with by school. That's all brought here and allocated out of here.
We're doing a lot of playground repair in the last year. Fences, mulches.
Some, it depends on the school.
Short Mountain Diamond Fence.
For 6,000 over. That's what we're doing here.
Look at that, Derek, you know, Short Mountain.
I'm just on this last 73 on the last 2 pages.
Okay, that's in the general purpose. Final expenditure report. So, I think that's where that was spent, with Short Mountain.
I'm just catching most of these are pretty, what the budget was the year before and what you budgeted for, and then what your actual budget is are pretty close. Those are just the two that stick out to me so far.
One thing is, this is general purpose. Now, we will get into, this is, like I say, general purpose school fund, correct? Now, there are some other funds that are outside of this, and that would be food service
And federal projects.
and federal projects. Now, those are done separately by different bookkeepers. Now, Darlene is doing all the federal bookkeeping, as well as, Diane, help me out here, food service also, is that correct?
Yes.
And food service, a lot of food service is done here in our office. We just send it up basically to write the checks. Would that be
Yeah. And I think
accurate?
Darlene and Teresa reconcile.
Because food service, Jennifer, you on, if you'll unmute in regard to food service budgeting. So Jennifer, you might want to tell them a little bit about the process on the food service budget.
Let's see, where do I start? Well, typically what we do in food service is we are solely based on reimbursement that we get from USDA and also student payments. So as you know, those can change every year based on enrollment, based on participation. So our revenue fluctuates monthly. You know, when I first thought COVID would negatively affect us financially, I thought it would be a disaster. But with being able to do meal distributions and things like that, it was a great positive and brought in actually more revenue for us. So we really, take my revenues from the previous year, and I use, this is how much money I brought in school year 1920, and I say, okay, I'm going to anticipate that to be my revenue for 2021, and it could be more, it could be less, but I have just learned over the years and had guidance that it's just best to kind of estimate it from the year before. If it's more, it's great, you know. And then we just try to stay our expenditures in what I anticipate my revenue to be. Over the years, we've had a lot of, I've told y'all this, but we have a lot of equipment that needs replaced and a lot of old equipment. So we pay all of our salaries for our employees, all their benefits, all the food. The board has been generous to help us with equipment in the past. But we do try to purchase our own equipment if we can, which it's been difficult for us in the past few years. And we pay for repairs. We pay for, you know, maintaining the hood systems, the fire suppression systems in the schools, and just those are kind of the highlights of what we're paying for. But basically, our two main expenditures are food and labor. It's pretty easy. There's not a lot of extra for anything else. And that's just as simple as I know to put it. So does the board have any specific questions for me?
Any questions in regard to Ms. Insell about their processes? You might want to explain a little bit about the process there, Jennifer, with what Teresa does and getting that prepared, and then what Darlene does upstairs.
Well, each month we calculate how many meals we served at each school, and I just have to start there because that's where the money starts. And Teresa calculates that in the Board of Education office. She takes each school, our computer system generates that, and that's how much money we know that we're going to file USDA reimbursement on once a month. We do it once a month. Pretty much at the first of the month, because we need that money rolling in really quick because we need it to pay our bills and payroll and all of that. And then also at not now Capstar, each day or every third business day, our managers are depositing funds in that bank, which is student payments. And she reconciles that bank statement and Darlene, and that is, I asked Diane, and her guidance was that she would want both of them doing that. Is that right, Diane?
Yeah.
What we decided. Yep. Right.
And
So
we've had to kind of inch around that a little bit, step by step, and I think both of them are getting better. Darlene hasn't done food service in a long time, but.
Yeah. So when it comes to that, I'm signing that we know which POs we need every month for each food vendor. We're getting those, and then Teresa gathers invoices. I have her check bid pricing on each invoice because that is our due diligence, that we're making sure we're getting our bid price on our invoices, and that's important because no system is perfect. So, you know, we're the keeper of those federal dollars, so we want to make sure that we're doing that the best we know how. So she checks that off, and then we send it upstairs. And Darlene, we tell her which fund or which budget line item we want to pay that out of, and she writes the check. And Darlene was the food service bookkeeper for many years, so she's had it. Food service changes constantly, so she's had to relearn some things, but she knows what to do. She's familiar with our budget and what we need to do. And then we do our procurement still. So I'm a group bid with surrounding counties, and we do that yearly. And but the original bid will be kept in central finance office for the auditor to look at and go through them and all that. But we haven't got to that point since the county finance has been there, but we will this summer. But I do the specs for the food and all of that downstairs, which is an undertaking of its own. So. But I have a lot of help from other people.
We appreciate your hard work, and the board does, in getting our kids fed, particularly during COVID. We're having meal distributions right now between on each. We had one last Thursday, one yesterday, and then another one coming up on the 23rd. So we're getting our kids fed.
Absolutely. And the principals are doing a great job of finding who those kids are that aren't coming to the school, that they know that they probably didn't have a way or whatever. So Lisa and the principals they're contacting us. We have a list on Google Drive. We're constantly adding to it and just getting families what they need when they need it. We drop off books, we take packets, the principals are on that. They know what to do and who needs it, and we make it happen as best we can at the office. So.
All right, thank you, Miss Jennifer. Y'all have anything about food service budget? Miss Kathy is not on for federal, but that's a whole nother. She does an excellent job in keeping records. Darlene is incredible about the E-plan, and everything on federal is E-plan. I mean, it's just all, and the federal statements are very similar. Y'all seen that on probably some of the ones that I've shared with you at the board meetings of what, there's 3 of them. Javen signs 3 things each month. He signs the general purpose, he signs food service, and he signs, and I do the same. I sign off on that on all 3, federal, food service, and the others, and the general purpose.
Great. Let me give you, you can probably get that for it. I want you guys to write down, you've got the school, what it costs to run each school.
Mhm.
You need the amount of kids that the BEP paid on for each school last year. That's what the easy math we can do, figure out what you're spending.
Yeah, we can get that. I can get that for you, and I'll put that as my assignment to get that. But you can do that pretty well. You will know the number that we had at the end of last year at each school, correct? Yeah, we can get that. Lisa Black, will you unmic there for me, please? Is she still with us? I'm not seeing her up there.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I see you now, Lisa. Thank you. Can you give me the last year's statement on the last year's numbers for each school as of the close of business on May the 22nd of last year for each school? And we can kind of estimate what we got on the BEP.
Yes, sir. It'll take me just a second to get you that. Hold on.
No, don't worry about it tonight. We'll get it. I'll get it to the board.
Oh, okay. Yes, sir.
Just give me a report like we did last year, and now
Sure.
you have to break it down by school. You don't have to do it by grade, just by the number of that we've got per school.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Lisa.
Uh-huh.
Is that, Mr. Chairman, is that our homework? I probably got that in the office out there anyway from that old one from last time.
I'm good, but it's pretty easy math to do. See, there's a discrepancy in what we're spending on each kid, a big discrepancy. And I'll just show you how bad it is.
I think we got that somewhere, didn't we? Didn't we do a cost analysis sheet on that?
Yeah, and I think Mr. Massey saw it somewhere.
Yeah,
This is
yeah,
where
that
we
we did it.
write down the amount of kids per school. And I mean, all you gotta do. Divide it into a number and you'll see.
Yeah, that's kind of where that confusion got. You're getting more money at one school than the other. You're really not, but that's just, if you do it by the numbers, that's how it looks.
There's a huge discrepancy in what we're spending.
What's being spent out. So you look at Auburn at 854,000, and you look at, you divide that by, let's say 122. That way you could do that, the same thing at all the rest of them.
Right.
I'm thinking that West Side right there happened to be next. You could look at West Side's 1.2 million. Their expenditures today, 1,287. You divide that by probably 275, something like that.
It needs to be what they had last year.
Right.
Run off last year's numbers.
And we can probably do that for you. I can make a chart. We can make a chart for you. I get that done. I'll add that to my other homework. I've got about 5 things I'm doing.
I'm sorry, Mr. Curtis.
Oh, that's okay. That's what you're paying for. I've got EESI paperwork I'm working on currently, board members. I'm also working on a compliance that we have to do each year before Thanksgiving. I'm working on the compliance sheet. Ask your principal about that. That's not right now. What you doing right now, Dan? And then I'm also working on board policy changes, revisions for December. So it's all right here. So we'll get that done. My job is to get that done this week. We'll get it done this week. But the EESI paperwork on that grant is I fixed some up to those guys upstairs that they'll have some fun with it. surprised they haven't been talking to you yet. The state folks have not been yelling at y'all.
Now, there are some things that you guys will see in the budget, when it comes to Title I funds and it comes to, special ed funds. Those funds cannot be used for any other,
No, they can't be used
They
for
can't be
anything legally. They
turned
can't be.
around and moved anywhere. So, you know, if they say, oh, you got excess money over here, you can't spend that on anything else. That is strictly, it's untouchable.
And that might be good for commissioners to know that too. On those Title I federal monies that can't be used for anything else.
Title I state.
Especially, correct.
You can supplement, but you can't supplant with title funds.
That's the key phrase, isn't it? That was in that.
Yeah, but
For me, party.
it's hands off.
Right, any questions as you thumb through that? You've got the experts right here to tell you. Yeah, well, Douglas, you know more about these numbers than anybody else in the county, and anybody in our school system. I'll say anybody in the county. And
Give Mr. Mahaffey a few months. And I think he gives me a run for his money.
Mr. Happy knows a lot too, but in regard to these, in regard to the numbers, and you know, we're being as commissioners, we're being about as transparent as we can, and we're trying to start early. I've asked the board members to do that as part of the strategic planning process. It is to begin early to look at the numbers, because the numbers will lead us. Data always leads to conclusions. These math folks in here probably would say that. Yeah. So that math always leads to some conclusion. Numbers.
Hey, can I ask
Yeah,
a
go ahead,
question?
Corey.
We do not currently have one school that will hold 600 plus students. Is that correct?
We do.
In other words, you couldn't combine, say Woodland and Eastside and fit them all in the same school, could you?
No.
Could you do that anywhere else?
If you did with grades, with the grade, you can combine. Yes, the answer to that is you could combine. Woodbury Grammar is designed to hold 600, expandable to 800 is what we were told by the architect.
Well, I guess my question revolves around the idea that, you know, statements are made that, hey, we can get more BEP funding if we combine classes, because that would force us to have more students in one location, which would in turn give us more BEP funding for a vice principal or an assistant principal. But again, I still don't believe that's a true statement. Because
Ben proved that the other night. You know, Ben Torres and stuff, and what he told us in regard to that, that just doesn't compute. It just
because
doesn't.
you have to have 660 students, if I remember correctly, in order to get any additional money for
That's correct.
Assistant principals.
And
we don't have a school that will hold that.
And Corey, that may be more of a question for Mary Ann Dursky and for Ben.
I think
Torres
so too.
When they come on the BEP, I think but in the meantime though, this is what we're educating the board on, is these numbers, and to get familiarized with the numbers, to ask the questions, to ask those kinds of questions.
So again, that idea of zoning or rezoning, it does not help you financially.
No, because it's based on the number of students. Your
Correct.
ADMs, based on ADMs, average daily membership. And Mary Ann will tell you that straight up. I mean, the state will tell you that straight up. We don't make this stuff up. That's coming directly from the BEP formula and the BEP handbook. And you know, when you look at the amount of principles that you'd have to have and that sort of thing, and Neil's looked at that, and we've gone that round, you know, over and over on what we'd have to have. And you know, when you've got an X amount of teachers, and this is what it's going to have to take to bring you down to get, you know, fully funded, just doing it on the BEP, You see some major things there. It makes you think a whole lot. The board will be looking at that.
I want to remind the board members and especially Neil, and even Ronnie Matthew, if we were to consolidate in one way, shape, form, or another, there are going to be people that are going to be extremely upset about that, and they're going to pull the kids. They're going to go somewhere else. Their ADMs are going to go down. So you need to kind of have a figure to get something in your head, because you may lose 50, 60 people. You may make that many mad at you if this were to happen, and they'll leave. I promise you.
And I'd like to believe we're going to do a better job with the student outcomes, and they'll bring their kids back to their hometown because we're doing a great job at school.
I understand.
And I'm not saying we're not doing a great job, but we're, relative to other places, our scores aren't where they need to be, so we're missing something somewhere.
But what would be the logic in moving your kid out of county because you're consolidating when you're going to take them to another county that's consolidated?
I know the temperament. That's an excellent point, but I just know the temperament and the backlash.
Oh, I agree with you. I just think it's one of the things that, if they were homeschooling, it would make logical sense.
Yeah,
but
that's
to
what
move them
we'll do. I know.
one place or another is just pointless.
But Corey, the problem with the homeschooling, I think this board has heard me say this, they don't stay at homeschool. Bonnie Patterson will tell you that. They come back, and when they come back, and these principals, every one of these principals will tell you stories like that, where they stay out for a couple of years and they bring them back, and the kid is behind. I don't say behind 2 years, but some, yeah. I mean, they've not done any, done a whole lot, and I'm not homeschooling when it's done right it can be very positive, but what we've seen in public education is the negative part of that. When they bring them back and they're not ahead, they're behind. Now there's some success stories out there, so I'm not trying to lump all that together, but I've got what Miss Hancock's here, Miss Cassie's here, so either one of y'all can unmute, and you could probably tell several stories about homeschoolers that have returned that you've had to really work with to get them caught up. Angela, you want to unmute first, and then perhaps Emily to talk about that. They're being mic shy. There you go. Go ahead,
I'm here.
But speak on that, Angela, about maybe homeschoolers that that's been our experience, is that they do go away, they do go and do their homeschooling thing, and then a couple years later, 3 or 4 years later, they come back and they're that far behind. Am I saying that correctly?
Yes, that is correct. We at Woodland haven't had as many return as, like, I know several schools have had more, but this year, like, I think we've only had like maybe 2 return, and usually it's that many or less. I mean, it's really not a lot, but when they do return, typically, they have to be called up.
All right, Miss Emily, you want to speak to that from a Woodbury Grammar perspective?
Yes, that's true for us as well. And then they also have to come in and test in certain grades. I think it's 5th and 7th grade for sure. So they're even tracked on not on our school data, but as a district, you can still track them for data if they have to come in and test.
And we can look at that data too, and just, and probably prove that point. But we all know that part, but, Corey, to answer your question, where do they go? I think homeschool, or, in other counties, if they still live in Cannon County, many of the surrounding counties don't have open borders. They don't have open enrollment. Wilson, I don't think Donna does. There's some few exceptions over around Hurricane Creek, around, or Kennedy Creek, where the border's there, I think, that Donna and I have talked about a little bit.
Yeah, I just didn't think it made sense to take them, the whole argument being, I want my child to stay in a smaller school with smaller classrooms and teachers, and I respect it, and I fully believe that the passion behind it is real, and I know that there are people out there that are very adamant about it, and I get it. Nobody wants to lose their community pride in their school and the history and all the things that go with it. But from a commission standpoint, I kind of look at this, and I'm pretty sure Ronnie, and I don't want to speak for everybody, but I believe the commission looks at this from a financial standpoint. And how do we support you, being the Board of Education and the students, with 7 schools on the current financial plan that we have and the money that we give you? And I know, and y'all know, I mean, y'all said it tonight, that the money has actually not been raised for several years, but your cost increase have gone up from everything from salaries to maintenance to fuel to whatever it is, but you still get the same amount of money. So, I mean, it's illogical to think that we can continue to do what we're doing on the same amount of money. But at the same time, and Ronnie, I know, is there, and Neil and Diane can answer this, but aren't we giving you or giving the school system more than what we're required by law to give you right now?
Yes, you are.
Correct. We can answer that, yeah, emphatically.
So, I mean, we're already going above what we're required, and it's still not enough.
$1.25 would be enough, Corey. Thank you.
Do what?
I said $1.25 would be enough. Thank you.
Well, and that's what we're looking at. It would be what, around $1.14 to $1.20.
Yeah.
It would be 68.5 plus that to make the $1.14 or $1.20 in order to, but that still is just maintaining. That is not providing what we could provide in other ways.
That's a true statement.
Absolutely.
You're just putting the Band-Aid on the gashing wound is all you're doing, even if you raised it up to $1.20.
Right. You're just keeping a 1956 building still open.
That's correct. Okay. That kind of answer. I guess I did have one more question, and this may be something you can't answer, but if you may have a feel for it. Do you think there's, and some of the ladies that are out there that are like Emily and Matt and all the rest of you, what is the teachers' support for consolidation? Is it pro or against? Is it, do you have any thoughts on what your teachers think along the lines of consolidation?
Good question. Y'all want to all unmute at the same time? So, Emily, go ahead.
I would just like to say Woodbury Grammar is looking for equality as far as the teachers go. And just when we're talking about a classroom that's got 9 kids in it versus a classroom with 18 kids in it.
Gotcha.
When you're sitting at Woodbury Grammar, that's not equality to the ones teaching those kids.
For the students or for the teachers?
Absolutely.
Corey, there's a buzzword right now going through education, and it's probably going with the commission. You guys, Ronnie, y'all probably heard it too, and that is the term equity. Equity is if there's a buzzword for education right now, it is the term equity. That again, equal access under the law, or that's what it says on the Supreme Court. But equity is equal access for all and fairness for all. And
well, think about the BEP, and you correct me if I'm wrong. It was designed to do just that, to make it equal, so that the student in Knoxville is valued at the same amount as the student in Cannon County is valued as the student in Shelby County. Is that correct?
Correct, but hey,
Okay.
Proves that every year.
If that's correct, what we're doing is actually defeating that purpose. Because we're saying the value of the BEP money at a school with 110 students is different from the value of the students at a school with 300.
Okay, let's go to other principles we have. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll shut up now.
Melinda, you want to unmute and talk about what teachers are thinking there at Auburn?
I'll give you one guess as what teachers are thinking at Auburn.
And that would be no. And that's my district.
They're not happy. I mean, they're scared is what they are. They know our school's on the chopping block. It's going to be closed. I mean, I don't know what other reaction you would expect them to have. we're devastated. I mean, that's about all I can say.
Can I just say on the commission standpoint, and that is my district, I have Auburntown and part of Short Mountain, and both of those I know the BOE is in the past considered closing. I've never advocated for any particular school to be closed. I'm more interested from the financial standpoint of it, of how we support whatever decision the BOE or the Board of Education makes, whether that's continuing to make, 7 schools available or consolidation. But I also know too that I know the citizens of Auburntown. I don't have to ask that or answer that question to you, because I know they're very devastated, very passionate about their love for their community, and I support that, truly, I do. I just don't know how to balance the student needs versus the passion behind keeping that. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you, Melinda. Anything else from Auburn?
Thank you, Melinda.
Okay, Ms. Cossey, let's go down south to Woodland. And
Okay, so I feel like we're kind of a mix between both of those. So same with Emily, like we sit with a class size of 30 right now in 8th grade. And so, then you go 10 miles away from us or 5 miles away and you may have 8 in a class. And so, the equity issue there, but then also like the community schools, they're really support that and really want to still be at their community school too. So I see a mix there of that, and just really passionate about their community and want to keep that. But then at the same time, we see the need for the equity with class size, numbers, what teachers are doing compared to a teacher that only has 8 students. So that's about it.
All right, thank you. All right, anything else from anybody on that part? So I think I answered it, Corey. Okay.
Thank you. Courtney, from the high school standpoint, what have you heard of Fairbanks? Technically, the high school is still going to be there no matter we go to 4 schools, 5 schools to 3 schools. Do you hear talk from the high school teachers about any of this?
I do. And to be all honest, they have really looked at going to a 3-tier school system. Like they're looking at that from a standpoint of having a middle school program that all the kids are pretty much getting taught the same way all the way through that, as far as the equity on that aspect.
Courtney, you had a ballot go out, and y'all actually put your part of this on the ballot. Now, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you sent me the information. You had 4 staff members that voted against it, and everybody else voted for it. Is that correct?
Yeah, I don't understand. Maybe they didn't understand the question. I don't know. I don't know how you can not understand that
Not
question.
you well, Courtney. Very diplomatic. Very diplomatic.
Yeah, not to put you on the hot seat.
So that pretty much tells me that you're.
Yeah, I'm still looking for those 4 ballots for 4 teachers on my staff that said that. So,
Here you go. Find it.
And everyone else at the high school was pro consolidation and pro building a new building, correct?
Yeah, restructuring. That's the new word.
as far as I could tell.
Okay, Corey, you had a question for Mr. Nichols?
No, I'm good. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, Courtney.
Yes.
Just to show you the mentality that just continues to be carried on. In the paper ran an article on the last middle school basketball team. It's supposed to be middle school basketball team. And they talked about the players, and it was so-and-so from Short Mountain scored 12 points, and so-and-so from Westside scored 4. So just the mentality of not having a middle school, but then trying to have a middle school, and still can't separate this.
And bring them together.
Yeah, and get them all
Yeah,
together,
yeah.
and, you know, we've talked about that. That's just, to me, is the biggest plus, is to finally get kids to work together and be from the same proud place.
Okay, now, my question, but hey, you're exactly right. I see that all the time. From our finance folks, any more, I know this is a lot to digest, trust me. I know this is a lot to digest. And you probably, when you ran for board member, to be a board member, you probably didn't know you was gonna have to be crunching numbers like this. But you are, you know, you are doing it. Any other things from the commissioner's standpoint? Ronnie, any questions? I thought Russell was still there. I think Russell is checked out. I'm not seeing him up there.
That's closed, I think.
So
He's
at the store. So Ronnie, anything off from the commission side?
I just appreciate the opportunity to be able to come, and I came with the intent to listen. And I think I learned twice as much when I do that, as opposed to trying to think of what to say or questions to ask and so forth. Appreciate the effort y'all putting forward at this time to get a jump start on this, because it is a daunting task, in particular when you know your numbers are challenging, so that you make the right decision, not only for short term but long term. And with the help of the finance department, that makes it a whole lot easier, I think, for you this go around, because you got more folks' eyes looking at it, and more people's right input and their opinions on things to really guide you. That gets you through June 2020. I would encourage you as well to keep on your radar screen your 2021 budget, which of course is in effect right now. And you can move to that after you sort of get your arms around the foundation, and I know that's where you're at tonight, to do that. And also from a standpoint of, it is the numbers game, and that's what you're talking about here, and all the other elements that come into play, which is challenging. It's hard to get your arms around when you're dealing with public, you're dealing with kids. And I think Neil said it well, and that very simply is this: when everything's said and done, and you pull back all the layers to whatever you're looking at, it should always end up being about the kids. What is the best decision for the kids of this county in order to position them to have the best education possible, and at the same time achieve success in the world, whether that's college or career or those things? And it would have been great if the wheel tax would have passed. It'd been great if the sales tax would have passed, because that would give them funds that would have went toward the building that isn't there now. So you got to weigh that balance of funds for the buildings to try to move forward if consolidation is on the radar screen, as well as money to the classroom. And buildings are great, and we got 7 of them, and a lot of money, millions of dollars, is going to those buildings that isn't going into the classroom. So it's challenging on that, but by the same token, you deal with what you got today and the choices you make today within the parameters you got to work with, the dollars you got to work with, and take it a step at a time. Hopefully you turn this corner. But I appreciate it from a commissioner standpoint. I've never been involved in this early in the game on the educational side. So
I don't think we've been involved. Douglas, you've been here a long time. We're going to start budget meetings in November. Not my 2.5 years, I know. I don't think we've ever started this early period.
There again, until you know those 2 big components, you really can't come up with what you need.
Well,
You really can't.
put quite simply, even if we receive the same exact funding that we received last year, even if we don't go backwards, even if the state doesn't hold us accountable for the COVID situation, we're still in trouble. You're in big trouble. Even if you get the exact same money you got last year, you got $150,000 in capital outlay, which is what we always used. That was our emergency fund balance. You pull it out of capital outlay if you have something for anything. But you can't do that. You have no money set aside for future purchases of textbooks. I don't know how long it's gonna take people to realize that you're gonna dwindle it away, you don't have anything. You're gonna have to start cutting employees regardless of where you're at. That's your biggest expenditure by far, to even try to keep 7 buildings open. Well, the next year, you're gonna have to cut more employees. You see where I'm going? You're gonna get, so you're just gonna have a skeleton crew. I mean, you're not even gonna be able to have a janitor in the school before long, just to keep a building open. Now, how far are you wanting to go with that? That's you can't buy textbooks right now if you had to. I mean, you could, you'd have to wait till the end of the year to see what was left over, and hopefully you'd have some left over, and you'd have to move it around, pray that you had enough to buy textbooks. Oh. I've tried.
I just have one more question. Is that meeting you're having, is that November or December with Mary Ann?
November the 30th, that's on a Monday night. And then December the 14th, also on a Monday night, is the next two strategic planning, budget. And like I say, I'm going to try to get those 3 individuals in one, which would be a great Zoom call to have Mary Ann Dursky and Ben Torres and Miss Lillian here. That would be a good deal.
You're shooting for November 30th on that one?
That's what I'm shooting for. I've sent emails, so I've not got any response. I just checked a minute ago. I don't have any responses from them yet, so.
Can the public join that meeting?
I'll call Ben tomorrow.
Can the public join that meeting and watch?
Absolutely. That's what I said about there a few minutes ago.
Okay, so if I share, when you get that Zoom meeting invite and I share it, that's okay?
Yeah, I'll do that probably right before I leave on Thanksgiving.
Okay, thank you.
I'll probably send that out on the 24th, Corey.
Thank you.
And that way, when I don't have to scramble when I get back on the 30th.
Well, you know, I don't shut up and I talk a lot, but you might want to consider, if you make that available for the public, that there'll be people that want to ask questions during that meeting, and it may prolong it. I don't know how you handle that.
Yeah, but you know, with Mary Ann here, I'm going to try to tell, I'm using their time, their off time. So with her being on the off time, I'm going to put her on first and let y'all go at, you know, let Mary Ann do her. She's got a PowerPoint, I'm sure, presentation that she uses at the state.
Well, maybe we can do like you wanted us to do at the other meeting, which is submit questions prior to the meeting so that it doesn't take up all the night time asking the questions.
Yeah, that'd be fine, Mr. Chairman. I'll leave that to the chairman.
Corey, I know that none of us want to sit here all night. Most of us have a lot of stuff to do. I'm going to recommend that they funnel their questions through you, and you keep that to 5 or 6 real important questions to ask her.
I'll do that.
Because she is donating her time.
And the same would apply to Ronnie or Russell or any of the rest of them.
Sure.
Okay.
Let's try to keep it down to where it's not, because the board will probably have questions for her too, and that's who she's coming to represent.
Yeah, I don't want to dominate the meeting by no means. I do enough of that as it is.
And I have no problem with the public listening and commenting, none at all, but we can't answer 1,000 questions. Keep them down, keep them, you know, the basic repetitive question that everybody needs to know an answer for. We'll get her to try to answer those.
Perfect.
And Corey, I'd encourage them to take notes and write down what they do have, what questions they do have, and send them to us. I mean, all our emails are public. I mean, even the post you shared over the forum we had, you know, it was funneling through Jennifer. You know, we still all have our email address, and they can email us afterwards, and we can possibly get a better answer after we do research also.
I agree. And you're going to video this meeting, and we can drop this meeting out on the New County TN.gov website, and people could go out there and watch it at their leisure as well.
Absolutely. We'll do that on our website and have a link over on the county side too, Corey, and vice versa.
Perfect.
So we look forward to partnering with the new website in that because we're going to roll out a new website for the school district too. Mr. Cofer, we've got all our Chromebooks pretty well distributed now, and they're going from one project to another, and that's on the next list to upgrade on our website. So we look forward to working with the county. Diane, y'all, I know with y'all, we look forward to working. I know y'all are developing y'all's website too as a part of that in the county. So we'll share links and whatever we need to do with our guys. All right, any more questions for our guests tonight, board members? Okay, Mr. Nichols wants to remain and talk to the board briefly here in a moment. So thank you, finance folks. We appreciate you.
Thank y'all for the meeting. I'm gonna bow out.
All right, thank you, Corey.
Thank y'all.
Thank you, Ron. Guys, I appreciate you. Pay them overtime, Diane. They need overtime. Yeah. See, I tried, guys. I really tried.
We didn't negotiate that.
That'll wait for next year, guys.
Yeah. Hear you say unmute yourself. So there be somebody here that night. Everybody needs to be muted. It needs to be
In
controlled.
fact,
And they can raise their hands.
when they come in, I can unmute right here. I can control the muting. I can control all the muting. Yeah, I can. If somebody were to start,
The moderator
would
needs
pop
to
in
make
and
sure
start yipping and
everybody's
yapping.
muted. You can set it to where you
I can
mute.
stop. Yeah, hey Matt, I'm gonna go ahead and let y'all sign off unless you're here with Corey. Are you here with Courtney?
No, I'll sign off.
All right, thank you.
Hey.
Jennifer, Thane, Lisa Thane, thank you.
Okay. The other principals, they can stay on if they would like.
Okay.
They
That
may
ain't
want.
gone. Hey, that ain't gone. So this is
Okay.
complete. Now go ahead, Courtney.
I figured as much. Hey, guys, I don't want to take up a lot of your time. I know that y'all been there a long time tonight, and I just want to talk to you real quick. Kind of giving you a boots on the ground report on what's going on with this distance learning. At the high school level, I'll just be honest with you, we're having about a third at best, maybe a half of our kids logging on to distance learning. I'll just be honest with you. I have spent about $70 in gas, and I have traveled all over this county handing out packets of paper to make sure these packets are being delivered because the kids aren't being picking them up. We're doing everything that we can at this point. And I'm not trying to get an attaboy on the back or anything for that, for what we're doing. I'm just telling you this, that my graduation rate's gonna plummet this year because I have a bunch of seniors that are not doing what they're supposed to do. We have had scheduled meetings with parent after parent before we went on distance learning. I've actually stood in the yard today with a parent and the student and told them, you're not on track to graduate at this point. I'm just being straight up honest with you. I do not feel comfortable with just handing them a diploma. I'm not giving them anything. They're going to earn it. And I know that we're in difficult times at this point, but my teachers are getting very frustrated at this for the lack of participation. And I could probably say that that's the case with several other schools also. I'm just, like I said, this was nothing more than just giving you a boots on the ground report on what's going on with our students. We're reaching out to them. We're keeping communication logs. We're trying to call them. They're just not doing it. And I don't want to put Melinda on the spot, but I'm going to let her kind of speak if she so chooses to on what's happening at Auburntown. And we'll just kind of go from there.
I'm just having a lot of the same issues with my 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. I spend a big part of my morning calling parents of students who are failing at least one or more subjects. It's just disheartening. And, I talk to parents, talk to students. What can we do? How can we change this? What are we not doing? What do we need to be doing more of? How can we help you? I just don't know. I mean, I had one kid get their tablet taken away from them today because they're Snapchatting during class. I had one parent say to me today, I'm working. My both kids that are at home, I can't, they tell me they're getting their things done. I don't know what they're doing. So are there any other principals still on here?
No, it's just
they checked off. But
we're We're meeting Thursday morning, Mr. Curtis, and I'm gonna assume that a lot of us are gonna have some of those same
What I'm
comments.
gonna do with that, Melinda, I'm gonna go ahead and revise the Zoom, and I'm gonna record that so that board members can listen to that. I want to offer them to listen to that afterwards, okay?
But it's very stressful, and I don't know what to do, and I don't know what, do we give them a 70 and let them pass? I don't think it's like it was in the spring. I think they need to earn these grades.
They have to earn it. They have to earn every single thing.
Well, I'm going to fail about 10 kids. I'm going to retain them. I'm just going to retain that many kids. I know, that's frowned upon, but I don't know what to do. I told a grandmother today, I cannot send your granddaughter to Cannon County High School with this work ethic, and I won't.
Linda, is it basically in your upper grades?
6th, 7th, and 8th grade.
Yeah.
Mainly
Lower
7th and
grades
8th.
are participating. Your lower grades are participating. That's what I've heard across the district. It's these upper grades in the high school, because I just don't think they're home alone. Number one, they're home alone, and they don't really give a flip if they check in or not. Am I right?
Well, I don't know. And like some parents, I feel like they're doing the best they can, but I don't know if parents don't understand the format of Google. I don't know if they don't understand. I mean, we're sending them remind messages. We're communicating with them. My teachers are in constant contact with parents. I don't know.
Tennessee Educational Association. Okay. I appreciate your honesty, and you too.
By the way, we are 6 foot apart. I was
going to say something about that, Mr. Nichols, but
I want to see your tape, man.
Hey, my engagement pictures. My engagement pictures over the weekend. Someone made mention that I wasn't 6 foot apart from.
Can you guys see that? How close do I need to get?
Get up for that camera there, Jamie. Get up for that dot.
That's the Tennessee Education Association.
Can they read or is it back?
The Tennessee Education Association calls for masks in, what is it, Sue? Something school?
Mandated in schools. Mandated in schools. I see that.
Mandated in schools. So.
And I think what we're getting at, these kids need to be in school.
Absolutely.
And I know the numbers are not, where we're at, where we need to be, but these kids are missing out on an education right now. And it's going to hurt us for the next 2, 3, 4 years, 5 years, ever, how long. These kids are hurting. And of course, mine are going to probably be out of school. But these 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th graders, it's going to be detrimental for them until they get through high school.
Some of the students won't ever recover from this.
They won't.
Their entire life. And I'm to the point, I think I spoke this to some of the board members the other night. When are we going to begin to think that their academic health, their social health, and emotional health are hurt a whole lot worse than their physical health from this virus?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But going back to, I'm sorry, Jamie.
Absolutely.
What about 2 years in a row without any teaching?
Melinda?
There you go.
What were they saying?
Yes. Melinda, I'm sorry, we were having
Let me ask you something.
sidebar.
I've been hearing on the lower grades, they are participating. But if a family has, say a mother's got 2 there, 2 different grades, the information, and I don't know why, I'm trying to get my head around why they would be this way. The information is coming at them so fast during this virtual. Why would it be different than being in the classroom?
Well,
In other
it's
words,
just
it's going, the information is, they're being given so much at one time that they can't get it. And that, she was actually pausing the recording so he could catch up and then start it again. And what would be a reason for that? You got any idea?
The curriculum that we have, it depends on the subject, but the curriculum that we have is pretty rigorous. I mean, and parents didn't go to school to be teachers. I mean, I told my teachers today, this is job security for you. Parents didn't sign up for this. And that if you have multiple children in your home, you have to put them in separate areas of the house because the feedback from the microphones on every one, I mean, it's just a lot. Families are struggling with it. And but my lower grades are really participating. K through 5, I have no complaints. There are some that don't have internet and I'm taking packets to them, but a lot of them are really, really trying.
I wonder if it maybe is that they can't physically see the students. You know, I think when you're in the classroom, you kind of get an idea how the flow's going.
Right.
You kind of look at their heads and you go, well, I may be a little bit, might slow down here a second and let everybody, and you can't do that on the internet.
Or you can walk around to each student, you can assess their learning, you can get nonverbal and verbal cues. I mean, you do all that. It's just
They're not raising their hands up and saying anything now. They're just taking it in, and they're not. And that when they raise their hand, that slows everything down. The
Well,
teacher
and
has
there's my third grade teacher, I walked into her class today. She has 21 students. You know what 21 little boxes look like on that?
Oh, I know.
Computer screen?
Do they have control over stuff? Can they mute anybody at any time?
Yes, sir. They can kick them out too. They
But
can kick them.
I mean, it's like she's got everybody unmuted, and all of a sudden she needs to mute one student. Can she do
Well,
that?
the classroom rules are everyone is muted, and then when you ask for them to give feedback, like if you call on them, they unmute to talk. You can't all be unmuted at the same time. It's chaos.
The teachers don't have the capability, the way I understand Mr. Crawford, is to mute everybody, correct?
No, but you tell them that's the rules. You establish.
I know, but I'm saying in an emergency, can she hit the button? And I've got a good example on my phone of what happened when she couldn't do that.
No, you can't do that. And that's why I argued with Mr. Crawford about that. Because I do Teams meeting and even Skype meetings. The teacher, the meeting organizer can mute everybody. But with Zoom, you can't.
I know.
And that's what hurts us.
Well, this is Google Meet.
We have Google. We use Google.
Yeah, we can't do
But they can't do that.
They've improved it. They changed a lot of it since the beginning of the year. We're having a lot of difficulties.
They changed some at the beginning, is that right?
They've changed it since the beginning and they've improved upon it. So my teachers aren't complaining about that. You know, it's just you never know what you're going to see on there in people's homes.
That's the point I'm getting at. Seeing and hearing in the background.
Yes, right.
Oh, we heard cussing. I've heard my teachers talked about cussing, seeing things.
I had a parent cuss out some students in 5th grade on the first day.
All right, thank you, Angela, for joining us. The board is just kind of asking some questions. Courtney brought it up about distance learning. Him and Melinda's been kind of educating the board about what our teachers are experiencing. So go ahead, Angela, and give the Woodland perspective here of what.
On the first day, I had it was the mom's boyfriend. He said like some cuss words to some students on the Google Meet.
Oh, to the kids in the house or to the kids?
No, to the kids in the classroom, like that were not at his house.
Oh, Lord.
Oh, boy.
I've heard it.
There's the
So I've had some parent phone calls regarding that. And we, have told them that, like, he will not be allowed to be on there if he, continues to have this. But, I mean, he has the school Chromebook because he's a 5th grader. So, yes, that happened on the first day.
Hey, Angela, can I ask you what your participation rate is?
For 6th, 7th.
For 6th, 7th, and 8th?
Listen, it's pretty high. Like, I'm so shocked, but it is, like, most of our kids are joining, y'all, and I will say, I feel like it's pretty high. How about everybody else?
Well, how are your kids' grades? How are your 6th, 7th, and 8th graders' grades?
Oh, they're not wanting to turn in anything, but they're like, it's better than it was like in the spring. I'll say we're getting more turned in than they were in the spring.
I'll say the same thing for participation. Like our 8th grade, we have a total of like 38 kids, and about 30 have been consistently getting on. And that would be 6th, 7th, and 8th. They're really getting on, but it is the turn-in work. The assignments.
Are your teachers considering failing? Are they giving failing grades when they're not turning it in? Are you giving Fs?
Not until the 30th, because we're giving them
Right.
all to the 30th to turn
Right,
anything
us
in.
too. And then we're also giving them time, like to the end of the 9, you know, we're gonna set a date after we come back or whatever, say to the end of the 9 weeks or whatever,
If
to
they
get that
don't,
in.
if they don't turn it in, you're gonna fail them?
We'll have to give some kind of, I mean, we have to have some kind of grade.
Do we have a choice?
We'll
Mr.
fail
Fan?
them, but
There's no choice. That's what you gotta do.
yeah.
Well, this is my question. If they're getting paper packets, are they bringing the whole 2 weeks of work when they come back from Thanksgiving?
We've been asking them to bring them to the meal distribution. That's what we're asking them to do.
So
Yes.
if one don't bring the meal distribution, which I have a student in my house that comes every day that I know has not turned in no work yet, will he be able to turn that all in on November the 30th?
On the 30th. Yes, on the 30th.
And it won't
Yes,
count against him?
I didn't hear you, Derek. What'd you say?
It won't count against him as long as he turns the work in and it's right?
That's correct.
You're not putting enough miles out there. Heck, the workload on the teachers got that.
Until you're tired of it.
Isn't that a hurt? Isn't that just a huge load on the teacher at that time? Have to go get all those weeks of work at one time and you got to deal with it?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, that's just not good practice.
All right, so we're getting them through the packets, guys, through the packets. Some of them are returning. Your asynchronous learners are trying to get those in. Is that what I'm hearing, elementary principals, that they're trying to do that through? I know we've gone through 2 meal distributions. Now, that's one of the questions I'll ask you Thursday morning. But, how's your percentages of those asynchronous learners that I'm always worried about that, they're living with, they're with grandma and grandma doesn't have internet. That's the ones I really worry about.
I would say a very small number is returning those packets. Now, we're not doing anything about it to the 30th.
Right. Angela, anything?
Same. I mean, they've only had that one day really to turn any work in, and we didn't have, I don't think anybody turned in a packet that day.
They came and got the food, but did not return packets.
Right, but it had only been really 2 days at that point. So really, most of ours are logging on and turning in the work like through pictures and stuff like that. I mean, the ones that are actually doing the Google Meets, they're turning their work in through that, like through Remind and emailing the work to the teacher.
Good.
What percentage do we have? And I know each school probably different, but what percentage do we have on paper packets and versus Chromebooks in each schools?
I would say we're like 85% using Google Meet and Chromebooks.
Are you writing that, Melinda and Emily?
I'm not. I would say our 4th through 8th grade is I'll say our 6th through 8th is probably about that 75. Yes. Our 4th and 5th are more about half and half doing paper, and then the lower grade.
Because the 4th and 5th is because they just got the Chromebooks. They just got the Chromebooks Thursday, so they're not as familiar as your upper grades are, right?
Yes, that is true, and yes, but a lot of them just is access to at that 4th and 5th grade with.
They may not have internet access.
Right. And then the lower grades, it's very slim online. Like the teachers are having Google Meets with like 6 kids, especially in kindergarten and first.
And we've got some of that too, but like for the.
Well, there's no devices. They don't have any devices.
Well, we checked out devices to our K1 and 2. That we checked out devices that we already had at our school.
Right.
That we had like in a cart. We checked out devices to them. So, I mean, most of them come and got devices if they had internet access.
But you have some that have internet and tell you they don't, just so they don't have to deal with it. That's what you're dealing with.
Well, that is true.
And I know that for a fact, because I have a kid at my house that got told that they don't have internet service, even though he's at my house from 6 o'clock in the morning to 5:30 that night. So I don't understand why they don't have internet access. When I have,
Yeah.
how many kids I have? One.
You got a whole classroom going over there, dude. I hear
I
'em.
have 6 kids at my house that are on virtual learning. And this
I
goes
can hear.
while babysitting 2 to 4-year-olds in the background and trying to do this. And all these parents say, good luck, here you go. That's what
Be an
they tell
extra
my wife.
fee for that.
I can hear the teachers talking at Derek's house. He's got all the teachers
He's
talking.
got a
I'm
Everybody's
serious.
got a Chromebook over there.
And you have a parent complaining because they have 2 kids at home.
Yeah.
Oh, you're good. You got good bandwidth. If you got DCC.
Yeah, I can't believe it's keeping up.
Okay.
I don't know, either.
That's good.
You already got fiber out there?
No.
You don't?
Just DSL. That's not bad for DSL.
But I think a lot of it, from what I'm saying, just from my group of parents, a lot of it is parents.
You
That
got, you
just
ain't got
don't
fiber
care.
either.
And I hate to say that, but that's what it is.
Just today, I've had 3 parent complaints over too much work. And
Yeah.
it's me fielding out, you expect them to stay on for 5 hours a day? And I'm like, well, we're not giving any extra work than they would give if they're at school. And that's what I've been fielding today.
I'd like to leave on a high note, guys, and what Angela, I'm going to share that picture that you sent me the other day, and let's go back to that though. Do you think it's too much? I mean, you got parents that think it's too much. You got some parents that think it's not enough. You got
It's a mindset. When you go to school to learn. You understand? You're there, your ears are open, your eyes are open. If they're doing it right, you're there to learn. When you're at home, you're at rest mode. That's why when I go home, it's rest mode. You just come home and sit down. That's what you do. You know, that's kids they're not going to learn at home. That's the reason we've done it for the last few hundred years, the way we've done it. It's the best way we know how to do it.
I agree.
They're not going to.
I think we challenged our teachers to teach virtually and be on task and to have their students on task. That's what they're doing, and it's not an ideal situation.
It's a disconnect.
It's horrible. The same parents that are complaining about it's too much work, when testing occurs and they're not where, and their kids are not where they want to be, then they're going to turn out, well, you didn't do enough. I think our teachers are doing the best they can in this situation.
I'm not saying that.
They are doing awesome. They are working so hard. I mean, I have been so impressed, I feel like, with how well they have just adjusted and took off with this.
Absolutely.
I always have teachers who done it. For all the different aspects of it. Some's got Chromebooks, some don't. Some packets, some on internet.
I'm gonna
I don't get it. I just
okay.
don't understand.
I can't minimize. Okay. I was gonna try to minimize and show y'all a picture. And I don't know if I can, I can't do it because I gotta minimize to do it, and it won't let me minimize while I'm doing it. But I'm gonna share a picture, Angela, with the board. You wanna give them a little cross story about that picture that you sent me the other day?
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
So,
go ahead with the cross story. I see a picture, and I'll send a picture here in a few minutes to you. That is a student. I'm passing my phone around right now, Angela. So you can see the student is in the car. This is the car that's located at Woodland in your parking lot. And this is a family that
they have a kindergartner and a third grader, and those teachers, like I had my third grade went ahead and started on Thursday. They were ready to go ahead and do the Google Meets on Thursday. So they checked out two devices from our school. They sat in the Taco Bell parking lot all day Thursday, and then on Friday they sat in our parking lot after they found out we had the Wi-Fi outside, and the kindergartner literally sat on the pavement all day doing her little Google Meets. That's some devoted parents right there, y'all.
Yeah.
And we tried to, once I heard that story, they were waiting on DTC to install internet. So I had Angela to contact Tim Cantrell with DTC, and I was going to, but Angela said she'd do it. And she contacted Tim, and hopefully, Angela, they got them connected quicker because Tim said he's going to take care of it. I hope that was taken care of rapidly.
Yes. He said it would be expedited, so.
So that's the dedication of some parents, and then you've got those others that have one of the best internet services around, and they don't even get on. That's what gets our high school students that's got internet galore and on their phone a zillion hours a day, but then don't take the time to even check into a single class. That's what I'm after. And it gets me tore up. And that's where Courtney, I'm saying to you, if we need to go after them in a truancy situation, we probably got enough evidence, but they're probably logging just on enough just to say that they've been there. Is that correct, Mr. Nichols?
Some of them are. Some of them are logging on. Some of them will go in, they'll answer a question for the day or something like that, not turning in any work. So you're correct that some of them are doing that. Some of them are just not doing anything. And I'm just laying it out there. I just wanted to give y'all a quick update. I know, like I said, I didn't want to drag this meeting out even longer, but I just wanted you to know that our teachers are working hard. They're doing everything they can possibly do. And our failure rate's going to be high. And I hate that. That's not what I want. It's just where we're at right now. And I have a lot of seniors that are just not doing what they're supposed to be doing. And that's what my biggest concern is making sure that they're ready to leave when they leave Kenton County High School, that they're ready to go to the workforce or go straight into post-secondary education. And that's my goal, that they're college and career ready. And at this point right now, I just don't feel like we're prepared.
They can't be if they're not showing up, Courtney. That's the deal.
You're right.
They can't be college career ready if they're not showing up.
Everybody that's sitting in that room, including myself and Melinda and everybody that's on here right now, was taught a work ethic. And that we were taught that you're not going to get anything for free out of life, that you're going to have to go out and you're going to have to earn it. And I just don't feel comfortable with giving anybody anything that they can't earn themselves, and they need to earn this. And that's what I told that kid today. And his mama sat there, and her and I teamed up on him and just ringed him up one side and down the other. And she said, "Oh, you're going to graduate." And I said, we're going to get, he kept saying, "Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am." And I said, "I'm just telling you right now, if you don't do your work, you're going to end up in summer school." And we are offering summer school this time, but I'm telling you, I'm going to be loaded down because I've got a bunch that I hate to say this, and I'm just going to be blunt. Some of them, I think I got to make a believer out of them. And I think they just think that we're just going to give it to them, that it's going to come to May, and you're just going to magically graduate.
Y'all want me to tell you what my dad said?
This has been recorded, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, better not then. Morgan, how many you got on the edge?
Right now, I'm looking at about 15 to 20
Seniors?
seniors.
15 to
That
20
are-
just seniors.
That's just seniors. I saw a list from Megan Klingler, and she had a list of just roughly about 25 that have got a below a 55 right now.
Below 55?
A below a 55.
That's
This now.
you just can't hardly recover after that, I'll just tell you. Been there 10 years, there's no way.
69 still going?
Yes,
Sir?
70's past though.
70 is
Yeah.
Yeah,
69.4.
Oh, man.
20 points off.
Y'all, are y'all that bad?
And let me tell you another group that I'm worried about are freshmen. Because they're learning the mentality of,
Oh, they're getting this thing, we're gonna be half the year, we're gonna not have to do nothing.
yeah, they're getting that this is the beginning of their high school career.
Yeah.
So it's setting
We
their
got 4 years.
tone. They're setting
We
their
got 4
tone the
years
rest
to
of the
straighten
time.
it out.
Courtney, how's the freshman? Letha, hey, this is a good point. She's worried about the freshman. What's the rate? What are we teaching our freshmen right now? Literally.
That's what I was saying. Megan Klinkler teaches freshman English, and she's
Okay.
got 25 that are below 55 average right now.
In one class.
And that's just one class. That's correct.
Man, I hate these numbers that come up. It just, ugh.
When they got back in school, I know they wasn't in school long. I understand that. But did participation in classroom grades, I guess classroom participation come up to what it was?
It did. It did. I mean, it really helped us. It helps me when I can sit there, and I hate to use the word harp on them, but that's what I do. I can just, every time I see them, you're doing your grades, you keeping your grades up, blah, blah, blah. I can stay on them that way. It's very hard to do it when we're virtual like that. And like I said, I
agree. You can't harp virtually. I mean, they'll cut you off. I mean, they just mute you. They'll mute you and cut you off. And, well, okay.
Courtney,
anyway, it's
you
not
just
all
know
doing
everybody in your school?
Sir?
Do you pretty much know everybody in your school?
I know the vast majority of them.
Said that was impossible.
No, you can do it.
Oh, I know.
You can do it. I've done it. I mean, Courtney's done it.
Big school, they won't be.
I mean, every one of our, I bet you, I don't think we have very few teachers who don't know everybody in their classes. They don't know by name.
Well, they know their students in their classroom.
But I'm saying, you can know those students by name. Absolutely.
But there's probably what, maybe 20 to 25 you may not know, Courtney, out of that whole high school by name?
I would say that's probably, I'm struggling more with the freshmen right now just because I haven't been with them as much.
You haven't seen them. But on a normal year, say last year, pre-COVID, you probably knew the name, just like every other principal on here probably knows about the names of every kid in their school.
Almost every one of them.
That's because you care and y'all are doing what y'all can do to get these kids. And like you said, you can't harp on them on a computer.
Well, and like I said, I didn't want this to be a doom and gloom to end your meeting or nothing like that.
Courtney,
no, we want to know the reality.
But Courtney, one other thing though, that lady that you talked to today, that mama that you talked to today there, and he said, yes, ma'am, yes, ma'am, yes, ma'am. Is she gonna be there with you to keep the thumb down, or that's the question I've got. Will that parent say, yes, sir, I will get that. I will make sure he's on there every second of every day. And did she promise anything like that?
I can't tell you what the words that she used today to express her displeasure with him, but I will.
Yes, you can.
I will tell you really quickly though that she said in so many terms that his donkey will be on virtual learning every day. So.
Okay.
That's good.
Well, that's good that you've got one parent that's backing you instead of parent cussing you.
Oh, she's not cussing me at all, and she's not mad at the school system.
Okay. All right.
All
Anything else, board members? You got 3 principals, so 4 principals here. So anything else for them? I know Karen's probably checking on her dad. Her dad's hospitalized. Mr. Ray C. Todd is not doing well. He's out. And I've not heard from Connie. I'd say Connie is taking care of Ronnie tonight. So I remember those two that they've got things going on, and our principals are very good. I'm going to meet with principals on Thursday morning at 8:30, and we're going to have another kind of session just like this to see what's going on. And I'll record that and make that recording available to you. I won't make it I will not make that recording available to the general public, but I'll make it available to y'all can listen to what we're talking about there.
Thank you guys so much for what you're doing.
Yeah, thank you. Because I know we had teachers. I know one teacher at Woodland went out at 9 o'clock last night and delivered a paper pack. And I mean,
that is correct.
Tell all your teachers, thank you. I mean,
yep,
y'all are working hard.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you all for listening to us.
Thanks.
So I'll talk to y'all, get close to y'all tomorrow. So I'll see you on Thursday. Thanks, guys.
Right, thanks.
Gals.
Thursday, find out, we sent all these Chromebooks to the schools. Are we holding up somebody getting a Chromebook because they're pinched for 20, pinched for whatever?
I don't think so. I think most of those have been.
Do they know
They've
that,
got those
targeted who needs those?
Yeah, they have got those where they can get to those computers. The
I don't know
older
how they're
ones,
keeping up with it.
the older ones,
Yeah.
they've been giving those older ones out because they were made available now, the older ones. He's been doing that. So I don't think there's
I'd
anybody.
be interested to know how many.
I'll check that because that's a question I was thinking
Chromebooks
about.
you ended up with that was sent out there that never got out.
Right. You're talking about the 4th and 5th grade, or just
The ones you just sent.
Yeah.
You just sent them.
The 4th and 5th
380
grade.
something.
This 4th and 5th grade, I was sitting with a parent today who just got it, and he was trying to know because it's a long story. Ex-wife got the Chromebook, got the instructions, and then the kid just showed up. He didn't know what to do with it. So at his house. So I was trying to call East Side and work with East Side and give me East Side's phone number and said, okay, this is who you need to talk to.
Are we
So
done?
yeah, hold on, I'll get off, Mr. Chairman. I will end this meeting.
What you're fixing here is a mama in the background getting on